be a true metaphysician, one has to have a very broad understanding of many subjects. For instance, just as I'm driving, I'm thinking alchemically of the elements, the four base elements, the higher, the base, earth, air, water, fire. And thinking, I'm a little low on gas, and maybe I'll use a little bit of recently obtained knowledge to try and direct energy, earth energy in this case, for a dampening effect throughout the fuel system to keep it contained and let those fumes be perfunctory and nice and airy and really support the long life of the last few fumes I have getting home. So this is an experiment in action, backed by some theoretical rambling and some nice jazz from KKUP radio in the background. Again, I am Will Pritchard, your host today. I watched way too much science fiction when I was a kid and listened to way too much jazz for a teenager. But besides that foray, point at hand, the elements. Working with them, why they work, why a metaphysician has to understand the mechanical workings of what he's dealing with in any case, and so must contain a knowledge of engineering, science, mathematics. The traditional schools of learned men were at one time taught very broadly to everybody, and they were grouped into the humanities, which is now liberal arts and humanities, and it's really not as foundational as it once was. But if we're thinking in that mode, trying to work our will, our intent, on an animate or inanimate material object, we must first digress into the mechanics of the thing. Look at it as a mechanic would in the case of a car. Look at it in the eyes of a physician, in the eyes of the human body. Look at it with the eyes of an emotional, human, physical, unawakened being when dealing with an unawakened being. We must meet the problem precisely where it is at. Clearly elucidated in Buddhist philosophy in my talks with Stephanie Tate, a local Buddhist monk here. And it made perfect sense to me when she said it. We must meet those who we serve where they are at, not where we are. Like Martin Buber says, in order to help a man, you must get down into the hole with him and get your hands dirty and stand in the mud with him and pull him up rung by rung. Because to do anything less would not be true help. We must meet the victim where it stands. We must meet the problem where it exists, as it exists, in the mechanics that it exists with and operates by, and what rules and governs that system. In order to render any aid to it, we must have that knowledge. So back to the element of earth, of course, Uriel comes to mind, one of the four cardinal archangels, traditional biblical scholastic merit, I guess. There's many more hosts in heaven than the four, but for the purpose of this argument, and the four cardinal directions, the four cardinal angels, the four cardinal elements, alchemically it all fits together. So Uriel is it. Now in my system, that's ever evolving, Uriel stands in the south. Is at the base of Earth. Is the base axis of the sphere. To the north is air. And if we move through the eastern and western, we have, again, part of the four cardinal elements. And so far, I haven't run out of gas, even though I have a Ford Ranger, which once it gets below that little red mark means your ass is grass. Start walking. And so far, I'm good. could be deluding myself, but that's okay. For the sake of the illustration, it still works. Delusory as it might be. So with that, I am just but a few blocks from my home. I'm going to retire this small reverie. Thank you for tuning in. This is Will Pritchard.